Welcome, everyone. This is the Dr. Nick's Amazing Man Stuff YouTube channel, and this is specifically the live stream known as Doctor's Orders. Today kind of has a little double meaning, which we will get into, and this is episode 9. Next week we hit double digits, which is crazy. Seems like we just started here. And as you guys come in, whether it's now live real time or in the future, please just gentle reminder, hit that thumbs up. We have a new, young, but hopefully growing YouTube channel, and I think today we'll kind of hit on the epitome of one of our main goals with this channel and with this company, and that is having a wide reach to help people. And you guys will see that we're not just saying that. That's not something that's just words that are thrown around. This is conversations we have in private often, and we're going to actually back that up. So my name is Dan C. Bearded. I help out this company in many different ways, but they like to call me the master of marketing. And then over here, we have Nick, aka Dr. Nick. Nick, how are you doing today?
What's going on, guys? You know, everyone that watches this knows that I'm almost perpetually a 10. I'm always feeling good. But today, you know, we're going to talk about it. Today I'm doing about like a probably a 4.5 or a 5. You know, I think we'll get into that today a little bit, you know, with No Shave November being the awareness of men's physical and mental health and everything else. So, you know, like you said, it's all about transparency. I'm not always going to say I'm a 10. Everyone has bad days, and it's a great place to talk about it, right?
Yep, and it's okay to have bad days, right? I think that's one thing that's going to be kind of resounding throughout this month. There's a lot of times as men, as guys, we feel this pressure to not be able to talk about those things, to not have those down days. We got to be the rock. We got to be the glue. And it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to talk about those things, which we will do today. And we have talked a long time and a lot of times about transparency, and we want to back it up. We want to live that. We want you guys to be transparent. And there's a couple of angles that I have to talk about today, but most of them are going to come from Nick. And one thing with transparency, if anybody saw the live stream leading up until about 20 minutes ago, almost exactly 20 minutes ago, we had a totally different stream planned. We had a stream planned to take you guys down to the wood shop, Bigfoot Slabs, and we were going to show you how the process is to make the product storage caddies. We were going to really break it down. Nick actually set it up. And then there was some news that we're going to talk about, and he shared that with me and said, at some point I want to talk about it. And I'm like, hey man, if you're comfortable, I think we should share it today. It is November 1st. It is No Shave November, which is about men's health awareness. Getting the awareness out there, talking about these things, especially the idea of catching something early with the potential of helping it down the road. So we changed it. The title changed 20 minutes ago. Now, if you're bummed, if you're like, hey, I get that, but I wanted to learn about the wood making, we're going to do that next week. We will take a mobile tour. We will go down to the Bigfoot Slabs wood shop, and we're going to see how it's going to be made. We're going to go through all the stuff, but today just felt timely. It just felt right. It just felt like something that we wanted to and we needed to talk about. And it's so crazy because this is the kind of stuff that Nick and I have been talking about for the last like week and a half, about doing stuff that's bigger than us, that's bigger than the company, that's even just bigger than this beard community. And I think this is one of those things that is starting to get towards that direction. So if that sounds like something that you guys are up for, again, just hit that thumbs up. And one thing that I kind of want to share with this as we're going through is Nick does a ton of amazing things, right? This guy is a master when it comes to anything that he does, especially in the world of software. And he's kind of talked about this for a while, that he's like, man, I love that stuff, but I would love to be able to really put my all into this because it has the chance to help individuals more, right? Helping companies is great. It's fantastic and it has a lot of value. But guys, with No Shave November, we have the chance to help people. I have a very good friend of mine who had not been to the doctor in over like 22 years. He went to the doctor and found out he was a diabetic. He didn't know. He had no idea.
Wow.
Since that point, he has lost 110 pounds and his diabetes are gone.
Wow.
110 pounds and his diabetes are gone. And he was scared. He was fearful of going to the doctor. And he shares this openly. And it was the push of myself, the mayor, and a couple other friends that finally got him to go to the doctor. And it may have saved his life, or at the very least, added many more years to his life.
Oh, yeah.
this stuff matters. This stuff is real. And so today we're going to talk about it. If you guys feel a connection, if you have stories to share, please share them in the chat. If it's relatable to you, drop comments, even if it's just an emoji. And if you don't feel comfortable with that and you're just sitting behind the computer or your phone and you're nodding your head, we appreciate that too. Put those things out in the environment because it matters. And I get it, E. E says in the chat here, he hasn't been to the doctor in 8 years. I had not before I met Sam. I didn't grow up with a family doctor. We didn't have money. This wasn't something that was normal for us. And so I started going regularly. And one of the reasons I just started getting into the gym is my blood work numbers were not exactly where I wanted them to be. And instead of trying to do something with pills, instead of trying to make excuses, I wanted to go the right way about it. So going to the doctor, getting my blood work done, I think that it's going to be one of the biggest steps I've taken in my personal life. So, E, I encourage you, man, get a checkup. If you have insurance, it's free. If you have an employer, oftentimes many employers will even compensate you extra to go get these routine checkups because it can prevent things down the road.
Oh, yeah.
Again, just something to find as you're going through. And yeah, I understand. And I do hear that from a lot of guys when they say, it's hard to find a doctor. I do eat as healthy as I can. I work out, exercise. You don't know until you know. You don't know until you know. Nick got news today. Nick works out every single day. Nick does not eat sugar. Let me put that out there again, you guys. Nick does not eat sugar. And he works out every single day, and he received life-changing news. And by receiving it timely, it will likely make a positive difference. So just understand, you guys, that just because you feel healthy, just because you feel like you're taking all those steps, there are things that you can tell with blood, with stuff that's internal. It really is worth it. And I cannot stress that enough. This man doesn't eat sugar and works out every day. And how many pounds did you lose, Nick? 50?
Oh dear, no, more than that. I went from like 150, or I'm sorry, I went from 250 at my very, very heaviest, 245, 250, down to 185.
Wow, that's amazing.
70 pounds at the top of the scale there, basically.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And E, you're absolutely welcome. And anybody else out there, I have lost all my grandparents. I've lost 2 uncles, very, very, very young, and all of which have been to heart attacks. These are things that are very serious. My grandfather died too young. He was a professional athlete. He's a world record holder in the MLB. So there's things that you can check. We see college basketball players die on the court every year. These are the most high-level athletes in the world. So you simply don't know. G Squared says, my father-in-law refused his colonoscopy multiple times. He ended up with stage 4 colon cancer. He says himself, if he had just done then, it could have been prevented. Wow. Yeah, man, it's powerful. It really, really is powerful when we talk about this stuff. And I love the stories, guys. Keep sharing them. We may not be able to highlight them all. Viking Outlaw says, I used to weigh 300. I'm down to 230. Let's go, man. Inspirational.
Nice work,
right there.
dude.
That's awesome. Absolutely, absolutely awesome.
That's
so,
killer.
Again, thank you guys for coming in. And I'm going to, in a second here, kick it to Nick, and then you may not hear a ton from me. Maybe you will hear me chiming in, and I just simply, we didn't super prep for this. I just told him, just talk, man. Just people need to hear this. People can relate. People can understand what you're going through. And he is Dr. Nick, but it is not referring to anything with the company where this news came from. This was an actual doctor. So Nick, tell them what the news was, share some background on this situation, and then really however you want to get into it with where your mindset is at now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll kind of jump forward a little bit to today, and then we'll kind of step our way back. But, well, I guess to kind of frame it up, right? About 4 years ago, 5 years ago, back like 2000, I guess, 18-ish time frame. I started having a weird issue with one of my hands, where it ended up being diagnosed as trigger finger. I don't know if any of you know or are familiar with trigger finger. Basically, my surgeon told me when he's looking at me, he's like, "Wow," he's like, "You have the hands of like a 60-year-old electrician. Like, what the hell do you do all day?" And I'm like, "Well, I started in the tech field super young when I was like 17, and I've been into it way before that, ever since I was a kid. So I've been typing, all day, every day since I was 12, right? And it just my hands weren't made for it. And I play guitar, I type, I work with my hands, I do, art, work on cars, I'm a mechanic, woodworker, lots of things that all involve my hands. It's the only way I get the things in my head out of my head, right? I'm not a singer. All right. I can't use my voice aside from things like this to really express myself. It's my hands are it for me. And so what trigger finger is in case anyone's unfamiliar, okay, 7 fingers done for trigger finger. Yeah. So I've had 2 done on this hand. And as you can see, they didn't quite heal right. My fingers don't go straight anymore. That's about as straight as they go. And so the couple news today. One, I now have trigger finger in this other hand. If I make a fist, undo it, it stays like that. And it's just this A1 pulley. It traps your tendon and it basically, keeps it from popping back through. So in the morning now, it's been getting worse, right? It's like I wake up every day and I got to ice it, hot water, ice back and forth. And then finally it pops open. And so that is what it is. Now, the challenge is that along with the trigger finger, now I need to go back and get an operation again. And this one, it's a re-operation. So when they go in and do that, they actually have to cut the pulley in your finger again and then actually shave off some of your tendon from here to there to make it so it can slide through that area easier. So it's kind of a tendon surgery plus an A1 pulley. So that one's a bit rough and it's my right hand. Now they're saying I need the same thing on my left hand. And that wasn't great news either. So while I'm in there with the surgeon, I'm thinking I'm kind of at the end of my bad news at this point, saying, okay, well, I've been there and done that before. And I've done the 6 months of physical therapy and all those sorts of things. He says that he also had an official diagnosis for me of something called Dupuytren's contracture, which is it's a genetic disorder, runs rampant in Irish and Welsh English bloodlines, of which I am both. And so I said, okay, well, what does that mean? He says, well, first of all, it's genetic. We can't do anything about it. There's no surgery that fixes it. I'm starting to get these lumps in the back of my knuckle there. You can kind of see it in the camera. It's like they stand up pretty tall now. Like, look at those things. And so it's there. It's also in the palm of my hand. You can kind of see there. But it caught these tendon
view,
lines.
you could really see it.
Yeah, like that, like the knuckles there. It's like really obvious. And it's like, big lumps.
Wow.
There we go. And so what it turns out it is Dupuytren's contractures. And he says you usually don't start seeing it until you're, in your 50s, right? And then it degrades slowly to the point where your hands eventually curl in, and then eventually they curl kind of in like this, and they sort of form like a claw shape. And he says when it kicks in your 50s, people by the time they're in their 70s, 80s, 20 years later, that's when that happens. He's like, so your timeline seems to be accelerated. So we're detecting it now in my late 30s. And he says it could be anywhere from 10 years, could be 20, could be 30, 40. There's no telling. Eventually, I will lose the use of, looks like my right hand first, and then my left hand probably to follow because of the fingers. So it's basically a diagnosis that says, like, there's nothing we can do about it. You have a genetic disorder that is going to make it so by the time you die, you will probably not have usable hands, which for someone that does what I do with everything with my hands, of course, is pretty devastating news, especially with everything we have going on, right? Between Dr. Nick's consulting company, software company, we got Bigfoot Slabs at the wood shop. And, I mentioned like, hey, these things in the knuckles make it really tough to work down in the wood shop. It, makes it tough to grab a big piece of wood and slide your hand next to it. It bumps, it hurts. And he's like, yeah, well, don't do that. I'm like, well, what do you mean? I own a wood shop. I can't really not do that. He's like, well, you can do it, but it's going to hurt. And it's probably going to make it worse. So you can keep going if you want. But, don't come crying to me when it's worse and it's more aggressive than it had to be. So that was kind of it. Basically finding out that I need a redo on one surgery, need a new surgery on the other hand. One has a 6-month recovery. One has a year-long recovery. And then the icing on the cake is once we get those good enough, enjoy them while they last, because you're essentially going to lose the use of your hands eventually. So, that was definitely a bummer, and we'll kind of dig into it a little bit. But I mean, it's basically No fun hearing stuff like that, and of course, you got me down pretty good first thing this morning. It's like the first thing you hear, and of course, it was worse this morning anyway, because like Dan said, I don't eat sugar. But there was Halloween candy around last night. So I had like two pieces or something. And no, bearded Vado, I eat nothing with sugar. So, the only sugars I really eat are natural sucroses from fruit. Any vegetables I eat have sugar in them. But no processed sugars. If I eat like a chocolate chip cookie, I'm asleep within 45 to 60 minutes. Like I'm done. It just tanks me instantly. I get the GI spike, and the glycemic index goes through the roof, and I'm done. I get spacey. Like if I ate like a if I ate like a Halloween sized Snickers right now, by the end of this live stream, I wouldn't be making much sense. Like I actually get loopy. So yeah, I cut it out back in 2018, by the way, at the same time I cut out smoking. Yeah, easy there, tough guy. I saw when I was first getting the trigger finger diagnosis back in the day. I was kind of researching myself to see if there's anything I could do about it to make it better. And I learned that inflammation was like a huge contributor to anything that binds up your tendons, and anything that's swollen is going to cause less passage in those areas. So I started looking up things that cause inflammation. And what was I doing? I was sitting outside my front porch, smoking a cigarette. It was like 10 o'clock at night. And the first thing that pops up is cigarettes cause inflammation in your whole body. And so right then, 10 o'clock at night on my front porch, I flicked my cigarette and never touched one ever again, and haven't smoked since. And that did. It helped. It helped reduce inflammation. And then I read sugar does the same thing. So I cut out sugar and just dropped it cold turkey. And again, if there's a birthday party, it's my son's birthday party. I'm not going to be like Dan's not going to be the dad that doesn't get in the pool. I'm not going to be the dad who doesn't take a bite of my kid's birthday cake, right? Like I'll sacrifice myself every now and then by exception. But that's generally the rule. And so, of course, I woke up this morning. It's a little worse because I had a couple pieces of Halloween candy last night. I think I ate 2 pieces of candy with Jack. And it was just like he came home from trick or treating, and we did the thing. And I knew it was going to get me a little. I didn't figure it'd be too bad, but oh man, this morning, I couldn't open this thing. It was an audible pop when it opened in the kitchen this morning when I got downstairs. So, it started off rough. And then you go and get news like that, and it kind of affects like everything you do, right? What it did for me was a couple of things. My first response, and this is totally like I say, I'm a transparent guy. I wear my heart on the sleeve. So I'll be honest. I was out in the parking lot. I was pacing. I was pissed. I was annoyed. I was borderline depressed feeling. I called Jill, and I was filling her in. That kind of, and I talked to my mom, filled her in. Of course, you got to call your mom, right? You got to call and fill in your mom, or because she finds out a day later, it's like, you don't call and tell me things. So of course you got to call, take care of mom, keep her in the loop, which I did. And so, she kind of gave me some interesting perspective, which is kind of one of the reasons, I guess, that I agreed to talk about it today when Dan asked me is, I've been focused a long time on individual success, right? It's the world we live in. I'm not a bad guy for focusing on individual success, I don't think. It's, by the way, individual success, meaning success coming my direction so I can take care of my family and my wife and my son and my parents, right? And so I think but it was very focused on the things right around me and the things that are directly relatable and impactful to my life, right? You look at, you don't start a software company because you think, fixing large corporations' ransomware problems are going to make the world a better place. Sure, it's a necessary thing, and it does drive a certain level of success, which has been great. And I still want to see those things succeed. And of course, I'm going to work my ass off on them, just like I always do. I have investors and partners, and I'm heavily invested in those things. I'm going to keep doing them. However, I've always had this desire, especially in the last few years. I don't know what happened. Something in the last couple of years told me that the things that I'm focusing on right now, although drive success and afford us to have a comfortable life and be stable and be happy and um, all those sorts of things, which are great. I never felt all the way fulfilled. I never really felt like anything I was doing was going to leave an impact beyond when I'm around, right? I didn't think that I was going to leave a lasting impact that was going to have a lasting effect that outlived me. And that's really all of a sudden started to think about that. That's what I wanted to start trying to focus on. And so, my mom pointed out that this is one of those things and one of those times where there could be something pushing me to make that happen sooner than later, to say that, okay, well, if you only have this many years left of being able to use your hands and be fully functional, you better make good use of it. And it kind of lit a different kind of fire, I guess, inside of me, right? A little more sense of urgency, I guess I'd say. And it correlates and goes right in hand with something that Dan and I talked about a couple of weeks ago that we were going to bring up on the channel anyway, which is, leading into kind of the charitable side of Dr. Nick's. We're, as you guys know, this month we're driving hard toward releasing, body wash, face wash, beard wash, beard conditioner. And we made the decision as a group last week or the week before to for every bottle sold of body wash, we're going to donate a bottle of that body wash to homeless organizations. And we've teamed up with the Friends of Boston's Homeless. They run a number of group homes, shelters, and individual living apartments for people that are in career path programs. And so we launched the idea with them that for every bottle sold, we're going to donate a bottle to them. And as this grows, we're going to expand that footprint. The more we get that word out there and the more bottles of body wash we sell, the more that we're going to be able to do and the bigger of an impact we're going to be able to make across different organizations like this. And more news on that, and we'll kind of run through some more of these details, but at a high level, we also have teamed up with our newest retail partner, a guy named Nate, who owns Sims Barber Lab down in Boston and downtown. If you Google beard barber Boston, I think Nate's like the first guy that pops up. I think Sims Barbershop, because he's had the news coverage about it through the Chronicle and a couple others. He's right up there. And so he's a great guy, and he has agreed to team up with me. Where if somebody is in one of these shelters or in one of their career programs where they help them get a diploma, they help them get interviews, they help them get job certification training, etc. Nate and I are teaming up together to basically help these guys get back out into the workforce and feel good about how they look. So the lady that I'm working with there basically told me that one of the first pieces of advice that their candidates get as they go into the workforce is if they have any facial hair at all, their career advisors tell them to shave it. And I was exploring this idea with her a little bit, and I said, well, wait a minute. Let's just think about this. You have someone who is homeless. They are going into a new field. They're around new people they don't know. And now you're telling them in order to succeed, they have to change their appearance. So not only are they in a new place at a new time around new people, now they're a different person when they look in the mirror. And I thought, how cool would it be if we could take whatever they have and clean them up and style their facial hair and give them a nice haircut and make them feel good about the way they look and make them presentable and professional, which is totally acceptable in 2022. You're allowed to have facial hair no matter what the profession these days, excluding a few. And so Nate teamed up with us on that. He loved the idea. So we're going to be donating haircuts and beard trims to people that are coming out of these career programs to help them feel good about the way they look. And then Dr. Nick's is going to be providing them with all the styling products they need to maintain whatever look they get with Nate. And so we think that's going to be huge between giving these guys in these group homes and these shelters quality body washes with essential oils in them. It's going to have an aromatherapy impact when they use this in the morning. They're going to feel good. They're going to feel like they're using something that's good for them, that smells good, it feels good. And I think it's going to be, it could change someone's day is kind of the way. And if we could change someone's day one day at a time, one person at a time, that's all we really care about doing. And I feel like this has kind of come full circle a bit, and it's really interesting that things, opportunities like that present themselves, and then things like this happen that all of a sudden push you to do them. And it's really strange how the universe works like that, I think, in the sense that sometimes when you just put an idea out there, things will happen to make you do it if you listen closely enough. And I think this is one of those opportunities. And I guess that goes into kind of part B on this of the rest of the story, is that I do have a pretty close connection to people that are in these sorts of programs. Um, I have not always made great choices and been in the best positions in life, right? I've been homeless, I've been unemployed, I've battled mental illness through depression, anxiety, and I've been in trouble and been to jail, and lots of things in the past, right? Battled all sorts of substance issues and living and life and just general life choice issues. It took me until I was in my late 20s to really figure myself out, and and it didn't help, right? Coming up in the tech industry after I finally got kind of, finally, I was 17 and just got hooked up with the right people in Silicon Valley and started working at big tech companies. And being in that part of life where you are prone to making poor decisions, and then being fueled with lots of money and zero supervision from anybody who noticed what you were doing, that let that kind of behavior just go crazy and built all sorts of bad habits through my 20s. And so thankfully all that's behind me, right? Dr. Nick's in a good space now. I'm healthy. I'm off of all that, I'm all the bad stuff, and focusing on healthy habits. And that's what I do and I have done for the past 10 years or so. And so if you if you really kind of boil it down, I can really relate to these guys, right? Like, I've slept in the back of my car. I've been in between jobs and had to go work with people, doing random labor work. I've been there. I've worked telemarketing jobs at nighttime, selling what turned out to be bogus vacations because it was the only job I could find, right? I've been in all of those sorts of situations. And I think I always talk about how I took those things and I used them as building blocks to become who I am today. And I don't really hide any of that from anybody, right? I am who I am, and I've been where I've been, and this is where I am now. And I think it would have been hypocritical of me to take the news from today and let it really bring me down without looking at what the next step it was defining or what it was pushing me towards. And I really do think that if I had the idea in my head that I wanted to make an impact, but I'm busy, and I'm busy, and yeah, I'll get to it. We're gonna keep doing this, keep doing that. I might not have ever got to it, but learning that you have a ticking time bomb with your productivity tools on the ends of your arms. I feel like that did put a bit of a timer in my head and kind of light a bit of a fire to give me a sense of urgency that we had to get this going sooner than later. And it came right around at all at the same time. It's crazy how it works. And so I think this is really kind of pushing us into the next chapter of Dr. Nick's, where we're going to keep doing what we're doing, right? We're going to keep on the product lines that we're doing and stay with our retailers and our affiliates, and we're going to stick to the same message to our customers and drive the same value proposition. I think it's going to have the added benefit of that fueling a much more impactful engine, which is the charitable side of Dr. Nick's, which we have a mission to get good grooming and personal care products into the hands of the less fortunate. There's no reason these people should be stripping their skin and feeling like crap while they're already having a tough go at it, right? If we can make anyone's day just a little better, that's what we're going to do. And I think, it is a good story, right? The people that we're working with over there have asked if I'd come down and talk to their career center and say, hey, listen, she says that, and I don't know if any of you out there have felt like this or feel like this or have had this issue before, but I think a lot of people, when they make poor decisions and they get themselves in trouble and they end up in a bad spot, they feel like, okay, this is where I am now. Like, this is who I am now. And this is all I'm ever going to be. And I've always really beat the drum that what you've done and where you've been doesn't define who you are and who you're going to be unless you let it. If there's good things that have happened in the past and you choose to let those define you, that's great. The things that have happened in the past that haven't been great, those don't have to follow you, right? You don't have to be defined by those things. And she asked if I would come down and talk about that. As someone who runs 4 businesses and owns commercial real estate and houses and does a lot of stuff, it hasn't always been like that. No one came and gave me a golden key to do it either. I had to find my way out of the weeds and discover who I was and what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do and go and do it. And no matter what spot you're in, you can always go do that. There's, thank God for capitalism, right? Because everyone likes to see people succeed as long as it benefits other people typically. So someone's always going to give you a chance, whether it's self-serving or not, because it's going to help them or not. You can always grab another avenue to go out and do whatever you want to do. And so I told her, absolutely, I would absolutely go and do that. I would go down. I would be able to, kind of demonstrate that someone who's, again, doesn't have the best education formally in the world, right? I don't have a degree. I've, like I say, between homelessness, addiction, mental illness, like I've been around the block. And, I think I've done reasonably well given the challenges in front of me. And not like I'm some, huge success floating around in private jets or anything like you guys you see on all these motivational coaches running around the country. But I think it's a real genuine story and it's a real story. And I think it's very, very relatable to a lot of people. So it shifted our focus a bit. We really want to have an impact there. And when we release these products later this month, it's going to be an ounce for ounce donation. So every ounce of body wash we sell, every ounce of face wash we sell, we're going to donate the same amount of that product back to these organizations. And the more we can get that message out, the more we're going to do. If we can cover 1,000 people, if we can cover 100 people in our first year of doing this, I'm happy. If by year 2, we got 1,000 people, 2,000, 10,000 people sponsored that have better hygiene and feel better about themselves because of something that we're able to provide them. At that point, I can lose the use of my hands 2 years from now, and I'm going to feel good about it. Like, I'm going to feel like I did what I could while I could, and I made an impact when I was able to do so. And, I feel like that's going to it's going to leave me feeling more fulfilled. And I think it's going to feel good for everyone involved. Dan loves it. Jill loves it. Nate, our retailers, love it. I think we're going to get other retailers on board with that idea in other cities. And so, you take something that didn't start off so great and you're going to move through the emotions. You talk about how you feel. And yeah, like Judd said, depression can be a monster. And I could have very easily just sat in my car in the parking lot of that doctor's office and just let it get me. That could have been it. I could have told Dan, hey, I got some crappy news. I'm not doing the live stream today. I'm going to go back home, go sit on the couch. God, I've done that. I've done it countless times. And I wish I was a better person and didn't have the ability to say that I've done that. But I've turned around, called into work, gone back, sat on the couch, sat there, sulked about things. And what I've learned is I've never felt better after doing that. And, just like people say, you should talk about it and do it. Mental health is a massive issue G squared here struggles himself. And dude, the only way to get around is through, right? I don't think there's any way to kind of like sidestep these sort of things and just ignore them and pretend like you're moving past them, because you're never really truly moving past them at that point, right? That's avoidance. And I think acknowledgement and working through your problems and talking to your friends, like I could show you a text message, to like my best friend he's the best man at my wedding, Chris Wilson. Great dude. I'm sure you'll see him on the channel eventually. He'll be down in the wood shop eventually too. So we'll see him down there. And, I texted him And I kind of just reached out and told him about the news I got. And kind of, this was before I really turned a corner and felt better about it too. And, he gave me tons of words of encouragement, told me relatable stories about other people who have had some of similar issues and what they're doing. And, I told him just flat out, I think my words in the text message were, thanks, man. I really appreciate you. And he responds back likewise, and it's, a lot of people are just scared. I don't know. It's like people just feel like sometimes they can't, they can't say what they're feeling. Like they can't show appreciation for their friends. They can't appear to be vulnerable, or they have like Dan said, we always have to have like this, this rock, this stone facade that we all carry around all day. And I'll tell you what, carrying around the weight of those walls will crush you, and it will take whatever problem you have and I think make it worse. And like I say, I tell you guys I'm transparent, and I think today I think we're really proving that is that, I have no problem showing how I'm feeling and talking about it. I reached out to Dan. I reached out to, Jill, my friends, people around me. And every one of those conversations made me feel a little bit better. And to talk about what we were just talking about, how things can, contribute and add up. I think each one of those conversations made me feel a little better in a different way. Dan encouraging me to do this here today. This is the first time I have ever done anything like this. I have never spoken into a camera before about how I feel or how my head is doing that day. This is brand new for me. And so, and one of the things I told Dan and I told Jill is that at first I was like, ooh, I don't know. And then I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, we have the coolest, most supportive group of people in the planet in this group of people that I'm talking to right now. I'm like, if there was ever any group of people that I could come out and just say, like, you know what, we had to change the live stream today. We want to talk about something that matters, and we're going to do what we were going to do next week. If there was any group that I could do that with, it's you guys. And it's an awesome feeling just being able to, it's cathartic, right? To be able to just put things out there and see some feedback and see some of these relatable stories, man. it's, we all got to talk about this. We all have to talk about this kind of stuff. And to Dan's point, it's the month to do it. As you can guys see, I stopped shaving this morning and grew a beard in solidarity with No Shave November. Here it is, one day of growth.
Yeah. And
this was November 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yep. And thank you for everybody dropping the comments, man. Keep them coming. It's so relatable. So many of us have been through similar things, whether it's got the same name or the same problem. We're all in this together. And man, we could go through, and every single one is so true. And I think a lot of it is kind of resonating with sharing, talking, expressing yourself. And like you said, we don't have to have this wall up all the time. And there's so many walls that we put up as men, especially, like we said, we have it together. We're tough, right? We are masters of these different things. And like Nick talked about with sharing appreciation for his friend, Nick can probably vouch for me on this. I probably share my appreciation to him and Jill way too often. I probably overstep those bounds, but it's just... like, I really believe it's a self-practice that helps everybody, especially when it's genuine. And I do a lot with this company, but they afford me a lot of opportunities as well. And I just really appreciate them all. Now, I could come over and be hard and be like, yeah, I've been doing beard stuff for 5 years. I got a big following, right? Look at this. I know this stuff, but it's not like that. I really do appreciate everything. And it would feel silly to me to bottle those things up inside. And just like OG is saying right here, I started telling my best friends I love them. Feels good to do that. Man, it hurts no one and can help a lot.
Dude, yeah, OG. That's I practice that with a lot of my friends as well. Like friends, especially all my friends I grew up with in Hawaii, that was like commonplace there, right? Like if you were going somewhere for like a little while, you're going away, you gave your friends a big hug, you told them I love them, like you were never going to see them again because you were leaving the island and you're coming. Who knows if you're going to make it back, right? And that's stuck. And it's weird on the mainland. It's like people will kind of like give you the look, when you do that. Like you got to follow it up with man, right? Love you, man.
Yeah,
like that kind of thing. And like once in a while, it's just good to tell someone that you love them because you don't. Tomorrow isn't promised to any of us. And it's you have to appreciate the people around you,
Yeah, and it's so true and life-changing day. Yeah, it was so interesting because a lot of these things we have been talking about in the peripheral, and a lot of it has been like, we really want to do this. We really want to change lives. We really want to use this platform, this company to affect individuals, people we can put a face to, people we can put a name to. We want to do stuff bigger than us, and it's a lot of pieces. And to give you a glimpse behind the scenes, Nick does a lot. He has a lot of companies, a lot of stuff moving, and we have great grand ideas, and we do a lot to follow through, but sometimes they take time because who knows if a ransomware attack comes up and something gets shelved and all these things. And it was almost like today was like, boom, this is happening. Like
Yeah.
it is happening. Like, hey, that stuff you talked about, the time is now. And I did push him a little bit on the stream. Now, I'm not a pushy
Hmm.
person, but we came up with the stream idea last week. Super excited about it. He was setting it up, and I was like, "How do you feel about doing this today?" And he's like, "Oh man, I don't know." And I said, "I just think it's meant to be. Like, and call it whatever you would like to call it. Everyone has different beliefs out there, and no one ever knows my beliefs. And all I would say is just call it what you want." It just seemed like it was meant to be. It's No Shave November today. His news came this morning, not yesterday, not last week, and we planned it for No Shave November. It came
Hmm.
this morning. I got the text, and that was it. And it was literally within an hour or two of the show. And then we pivoted the decision to change came 20 minutes before the show started.
Yeah.
And it's just freaky. It just seems like something was pushing it. Something said, like, here, we got a new van, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. And it's got the technology where if you don't hit the blinker to change lanes, it like pushes you back into the lane.
Yeah.
And I feel like this was like, we were like, okay, we're going to go to the wood shop. And it was like, nope, you're going to do this. And
Yeah.
it's really, I don't know, just very, very big. And I think there's a chance to help everybody, right? Helping is healing. And when you help people, you're healing yourself. You're healing others too. And it really, really helps. And Jill said, once you start opening up, it's hard to shut the floodgates. If anybody out there doesn't have someone to turn to, hit us up. We're here for you. No doubt. No doubt.
Hell yes. I mean, anytime. And OG, you say expressing your feelings used to make you feel weak. That's exactly what Dan was talking about. And that's not something that, you had an active decision to feel that way. That's like the way society has pushed us into the box that we're in, right? Is that you're not supposed to talk about those things, and you're supposed to bottle things up. And look what's happened with that sort of attitude, right? Look at the rise in depression and suicide and the shootings and just everything else and violence out there in the world. I mean, you tell me there's no correlation between the facade that people feel like they have and have to hold their feelings inside and the lashing out that happens around the world right now. Tell me those things aren't related, right?
For sure.
um, Especially look in parts of the world where it's culturally unacceptable to open up and tell people how you feel, and look at the increase of violence in those parts of the world, right?
Yep.
I think it's huge. And I think just having mindset like this and spreading mindset like this, it's contagious. And if we could do that along with doing the things that we want to do to help just make our success benefit other people, I mean, hell, that's powerful. That's good stuff.
And speaking on that, it's been touched on, but I think it's an important thing, and I haven't been able to speak on it, is we do hear all these stories, and you do hear about people being down, but you don't often hear the other side of it. You don't hear people getting out of it. You hear helping people. You hear people in a rough spot and then getting help. But you don't often hear the person that was in a really, truly rough spot and then now is on that other side. You just know the other side. Most of you probably didn't know 5% of what Nick told today. Most of you
Mm-mm.
probably knew absolutely nothing of his past, nothing of any of these medical conditions, and you just saw this person that owns 4 businesses. That is a 10 on his happiness scale almost every single day of his life, right? Amazing family, beautiful wife, companies that he loves. But you didn't hear where he was. And just like Barlow says here, it's never too late. It's never too late to get it started.
Mm-mm.
And your biggest challenge is your biggest challenge. That's something that's important. And as a middle school teacher and as a father of young kids, I understand this very thoroughly. And I think it's a perspective that really helps me out. Is people would say, man, when you like take your kid's phone, it's like their life is ending. Well, maybe that is the most challenging thing they've ever experienced at whatever age they're at.
Mm-hmm.
All you know is the most challenging thing. And so being able to share it, being able to be relatable, no matter what yours is, right? There may be people that hear Nick's situation and say, I would love to be in that boat. If that's the medical condition I would have, I would trade that in a second.
Yep.
But your worst situation's your worst situation. I have nowhere near that. I have nothing considered close to that. But I have challenges. I have family members with far more challenges. My challenge is helping them, adjusting to them. And
Mm-hmm.
so talking about it, sharing it, this is the month. This is the day to do that. Whether you guys do it in person, whether you make a social media post, whether you share a post, whether you hang out in this chat, that's how we make those changes. And I love the direction that Dr. Nix is going in. I feel very fortunate, very appreciative that I get to be able to help and be along for this ride and change lives and get the conversation going. Most of you know me and know that I do not have a problem having these conversations. I don't have a problem being that example. I know my kids are going to grow up being able to express themselves. I know my kids are going to be able to grow up knowing what it is to be a real man, knowing what it is to be a young woman and what it's like to be treated by a real man. And
Mm-hmm.
all of these things happen by communicating. That is so important. I never wanted the relationship where I felt a wall between my children. I want my sons to come home from school and without hesitation share anything that they experienced and that they thought. I'm not going to shut any of those doors. And I know that's super important. And we're also going to share these things with them. We're going to share all these things in our lives. We're going to try and inspire them. And again, this starts right here. And so many of you, as Jill said, as my mom always says, as long as you're still sucking air, you have a chance to change. Yep.
Yeah, it's so true. And to that, and to your point, Dan, with your kids, Jack is going to be along with us on all of these things. Like when we go down and we go meet someone at a barbershop who's getting a donated haircut and a beard trim, and we're going to be handing off products. Like Jack is going to be there, listening to the story, listening to the past, listening to what they're doing, seeing how we're helping. Stewardship, I think, is something that needs to, unless it's, part of your religion, I think it's part of something that really gets left out with kids these days, right? And you need to instill in them that if you've been afforded some sort of success and you feel like you might be better off than others, it's time to share it. Like as soon as you feel like that, don't go beating the drum and ignoring the people behind you. You need to go share it right away, because that's just going to increase your success. It's going to create success around you. And when you create success around you, you're creating a movement, right? You're creating an impact. You're not just doing an individual task that was monetarily beneficial or some other way beneficial. I think it's, doing things that are bigger than us, like you said in the beginning. That's what it's all about. But Jack's going to be along for us with all of that. I want him to see every minute of this as he grows up, so he knows that as soon as we were able to, we started giving back. Like, before we even hit our revenue targets of where we wanted to be someday, nope, peel it off, give it back right away.
Yeah, and think about perspective. Perspective is so important. How many kids his age see somebody in a homeless situation, in a temporary situation, and they immediately go to negative thoughts? Imagine how many kids, their parents see somebody homeless and they make comments in a negative, derogatory way.
Mm-hmm.
When your child's perspective is going to be framed as this person is in a tough spot right now, but we're going to help them change. They're going to have the ability to make a change. That's what they see. They see an opportunity to help when someone's down. They don't see an opportunity to kick them and make themselves feel better about it. And man, and share these things. I posted something on my personal Instagram today, and it was a comment that I got on a YouTube video, and it was someone saying that I'm not a man because I blow dry my beard and all this stuff, and I gave a very polite but firm response. But the biggest thing is somebody commented and said, hey, man, don't let that get you down. And this is not being tough, but it doesn't whatsoever get me down. I genuinely see that as an opportunity to share that story and show other people that it's okay that this 6'3", moderately muscular, I'm getting there, guys, calm down, I'm getting there, moderately muscular, like, man uses a blow dryer and he's proud of it, and he's sharing that those silly things don't make you a man. right? Your self-value comes from within. It's not about
Mhm.
comparing to others and trying to make yourself feel better. And so I share those things. I'm proud to share those things. That's not something I'm embarrassed about. And it didn't bother me because I'm secure. I do it for myself. I take care of my beard because I like it. I just went on a cruise, slight small flex here, and most know, but got awarded a top 100 teacher in America, which is pretty cool. Or not America, excuse me, North America. In North America. And I received
Out of 4 million teachers, everyone
yeah.
knows, just so you know, out of
Yeah.
4 million teachers, 100 were selected,
Yeah.
and your boy right here is one of them.
Crazy. But I received more beard compliments on this cruise than I have in the rest of my life combined. And I get a lot of beard comments. I was not kidding. My dad counted. I had over 200 people say something about my beard in one day.
Wow.
Now, that's because it's purposeful. That's because I take pride in it. Did I use a blow dryer? Yeah, absolutely I did. Every morning, every day. And so I share those things because it's perspective, and that perspective is so valuable. And this month is No Shave November. It is about men's health. It is in mental health is men's health, being secure, being confident, having perspective. So all of those things really do matter, and this is all cyclical. It started with Nick getting really tough news from the doctor today. Really tough news. And he mentioned it, but he could lose use of his hands in 10 to 40 years. We don't know. But one point I do want to make is you are going to have a pretty near surgery, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's gonna have to happen. Probably, it's gonna be scheduled in November, December.
There you go. And if you would have not gone through with the checkup process, with
Mm,
going to the doctor, with following through, that could not have happened in a timely manner. Now, we're not saying
no,
it's going to fix it. It's probably can't. But
no. But but you're dead on. I mean, without knowing, it would have been worse. Number one, the surgeries are less effective when they have to work on it after it's more messed up.
yep.
On the trigger finger stuff, I think someone else mentioned the trigger finger. Someone had 7 of them. I mean, I think his wife had 7. It's brutal. But to that point, though, Dan, I mean, I've had things ever since I figured out that I had a hormone issue lots of years ago and had to kind of correct it with an endocrinologist. I had this guy. I went and saw this guy, and I'll throw his name out there because he's literally one of my favorite humans in the world. His name is Dr. Elliot Locke, Lach, and he's out of Southborough, Massachusetts. And he is one of those just savants. He's a genius. The guy is brilliant. He ran labs on me when I first saw him, and he's like going through these blood labs, and he's like, "Oh, okay, so let's see here. It looks like maybe there's heart disease, high blood pressure. That's probably maternal on your mom's side, right?" And he pulls it up. I'm like, "Yep, that is." And he's like, "Okay." And he's going through. If you pull up his profile for Core Medical, if you find that up, the guy, like his bio is nuts. Like the guy's on the board of every big hospital in the world. He's an endocrinologist, microsurgeon, plastic surgeon, and cancer research doctor. So the guy is just insane. And so anyway, he's going through this blood labs, and just from labs, it's like a crystal ball. He's like, is it maternal that has blood problems, high blood pressure, heart disease? I was like, yep. And he's like, ooh, looks like lots of dementia on the paternal side. Who's that? And I was like, oh, that's my dad, my uncle, well, both uncles and my dad, Alzheimer's, dementia. And he's like, oh, okay, don't worry, we can fix that. We can prevent that if we catch it now. And he starts just reading down this list of things. Like he knew my whole family medical history from looking at blood labs. And he's helped me change the way I eat and change things that I do. And it's been he says that they've shown that dementia and Alzheimer's comes from lots of saturation of heavy metals in your blood cells. And so he has me donate blood 4 times a year to clear out the iron. And I have a little bit of hemochromatosis, so my capacity for iron is smaller. So I don't eat much steak. I kind of stay away from red meats, and I donate blood 4 times a year. And he says that's going to stave off that saturation level that kills that frontal cortex of your brain. And it's insane, the stuff that these guys, the modern medicine that's out there. You find the right practitioner. I mean, this is one of those guys where you see him. Someone mentioned finding the right doctor. He doesn't take insurance, number one. But number 2, this guy, you see his nurse for 5 minutes, you see him for an hour. It's not like you see the nurse for 15, 20 minutes and then the doctor comes in, reads it, and writes a prescription and walks out. I mean, this guy is good. He caught his assistant, his front desk manager, Diane. He looked at her one day said that something didn't seem right to him, sent her to the hospital to get scanned. She had stage 3 undetected breast cancer and no one ever knew it. And he knew it from looking at her walking into the office that day.
Wow.
He's like, something's not right with you. Go to the hospital and get scanned. I want to review him right now. And she went in, he treated her himself, and she's in remission, has been for almost 10 years.
Wow.
Literally, stage 2 breast cancer, undetected. She had no idea. And this guy just knew.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is. It's all about finding that right guy. But it starts with, actually caring enough and realizing that, like, okay, I'm not invincible. It's okay to flat iron my beard. It's okay to talk about my feelings, and it's okay to go to the doctor and say, I want to make sure everything's okay.
Yep.
You know?
It's encouraged. It's so much more. My sister has a boyfriend who just finished medical school. Both of his parents are doctors. When he was 19, and he was a high level athlete, he was 19, had testicular cancer. You're not supposed to have that at 19. You're not supposed to have that when you're healthy and you are literally going to be a doctor. And so these things can make all the difference in the world, especially testicular cancer, especially prostate cancer, which are ones for men. And so that's why we're talking about this. Get your checks. Do what you do. And if you notice these trends, a lot of the trends are going younger. When you're supposed to get some of these checks, it starts going younger. It's for a reason. These things are rapidly accelerating. Why? Our food's changing. There's a lot of stuff that's out there that's causing these things that we could talk about causation, correlation. There's something there. There's something there.
Undeniably.
So get checked. Undeniably. Yeah, it's not even a conversation. It's undeniably something is changing. And so you want to get checked, but what else is changing is medical technology, right? There are surgeries. I had a surgery recently to guarantee that we do not have child number 4, and the surgery was done. Effortless. Gone. Like, so simple. The horror stories that I heard from all these people did not exist for me. Why?
No, me neither.
Medical technology is changing. It is so amazing what they can do now. And it's not something that's this big bad wolf to be so scared of. Go in, right? I used to hate going to the dentist. We found the right dentist now that uses all this new technology stuff. Hey, cake, simple. I look forward to the conversation. I look forward to the conversation when I go to the dentist. That's crazy.
Me too. I didn't go to the dentist for I didn't go to the dentist since I had it was almost 8 years before my current dentist I'm at now. I didn't go for 8 years, started seeing him a few years ago. And now I go 4 times a year. I go in for my cleanings. I go in, like, I'm like, what's up? How's it going, Karen? What's going on? And like walk in, and it's just like no big deal. I love it. I used to be terrified of the dentist. I had one bad one. I think it just traumatized me.
And I think everyone has that experience or that story. And even like Christina said here, got her tonsils and other stuff done. This 20-minute procedure. It's crazy.
In and out.
Yeah. I've had so many people that have been through procedures like, oh, you're going to be in the hospital. Like, no, it was a walkout. Like, what? Like, that was a walk. My dad got his hip replaced and walked out of the hospital. Huh? What?
Wow.
Yes. He got his hip replaced and walked out of the hospital. So don't be scared, you guys. Go get checked. And I know it, whether people will say that or not. When people don't go to the doctor, they mask it with a lot of things. It's the fear of bad news. It's the fear of, if I go, then this is going to happen. Then I'm going to have to do this.
Yeah.
It is
you have to acknowledge it.
It's never going to meet your fears. It's never going to be to that level. Let's go. Let's get it started, you guys. Nick shared his story. I encourage you guys to share yours in whatever medium that may be. It's No Shave November. Next week, we will do the woodshop tour. We will show you guys what's going on there. It'll be, I don't know what the right term is. I don't want to bring any kind of apologetic tones. I'm proud of this conversation. I am happy that we're able to have this conversation and learn and grow and be transparent from it. So thank you guys for being here. The numbers speak volumes for your guys, your character, to show that this is a conversation that you would want to hear, that you would want to engage in, that you would want to get out there. So if you felt like today, and this is literally nothing to do with numbers for the channel, if you feel like today was impactful, maybe encourage others to go back and watch this replay of the stream. Maybe it does make a difference. Maybe somebody does go to the doctor. Maybe somebody feels confident sharing their feelings for the first time, and you don't know the ripple effect from that, and they impact somebody else. So please consider sharing this. Please consider like encouraging somebody to watch this and all the stuff that we shared here. And next week we will do that woodshop tour, and I'll kick it to Nick to take us home today.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. We will do that next week. Not only because I want to, and we said we were going to, but it's all set up down there with like half-built projects ready to show you guys how this stuff gets made. We're gonna go from the CNC machine, and then we're gonna go over and we're gonna look at a piece that's kind of half done. We're gonna finish it, and I have a tripod with the gimbal on it to bring you around to each station. So we're gonna check out the CNC machine. We're gonna bandsaw it apart. We're gonna throw it on an oscillator, and I got another raw piece that we're going to show how it gets through a joiner, table saw, planer, gets thickness planed, and then gets onto the CNC. So we actually have like a really cool kind of 360-degree. Like if you've never worked, if you didn't go to wood shop in high school, you're about to go to Dr. Nick's wood shop. So what's up? But man, guys, thank you so much for this. Like like I say, I've never done this before. Brand new for me. Thank you for being just supportive and awesome, like I knew you guys would be, and I had no doubt. And as soon as I thought about it and realized who I was going to be talking to today, I was more than comfortable doing it. So thanks for creating such a inviting environment and making this what it is. It means a lot, and thank you.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next
guys.
week.
Yep. Go do something amazing today. We'll be working